So last year, right around this time, I had what is now one of my favorite aesthetic treatments done, and I have to tell you guys all about it. So I remember scrolling Instagram and coming across a post from a local woman-owned business that showed a gnarly-looking device hovering over a patient's face, and the caption read something along the lines of, "Now that boat season is over, get rid of the sun damage with our laser facial." I had heard of laser facials before, but I wasn't totally sure exactly what they were for. Then I saw the after photo of this business's patient, and I was shocked. Of course, I had to try it for myself, so I booked myself an appointment at Medicine-Based Beauty and never looked back. Medicine-Based Beauty is your go-to clinic for medical-grade aesthetic services that blend art and science. They offer Botox, fillers, laser treatments, microneedling, and wellness therapies. And they have highly trained professionals that tailor each treatment to enhance your natural beauty. With locations in Ithaca and Syracuse, Medicine-Based Beauty ensures safety and exceptional results for every client. Are you ready to start your beauty journey? Schedule your appointment today by visiting their website at medicinebasedbeauty.com or calling 315-920-0012. Elevate your beauty routine with Medicine-Based Beauty. You will not regret it. Are you a professional woman in Central New York looking to connect with a community that values local talent? Unlock your career's potential with the CNY Women's Network online business directory. For just $9 a month, you can enjoy a premier listing that connects you with a community of engaged customers, recruiters, and executives eager to discover you. Getting started is easy. Simply click the link in the show notes to purchase your listing, and your profile will be live within 72 hours. And one more thing, as a valued listener of the Cultivate CNY podcast, you get 20% off your first month with us. Just use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first month with the CNY Women's Network online business directory when you use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. Don't miss out on the opportunity to grow your career and attract new opportunities. Join the CNY Women's Network directory today to be seen, connected, and hired. Hello, and welcome to the Cultivate podcast. I am your host, Alex Canavan, founder of CNY Women's Network. And this week's guest is a luxury wedding photographer in upstate New York. She's best known for her unique editorial style, and her work has been featured in Forbes, Loverly, and so many more. In this episode, we talk about how she went from studying pharmacy to pursuing wedding photography in New York City, elevating the client experience, her favorite bridal designers, and what she would do if she were planning her wedding in 2024. On top of so many other things, I learned so much during this episode, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation, especially those of you who might be pursuing a career in photography. Without further ado, let's welcome Alyssa Flood to the Cultivate podcast. All right. Well, that being said, I've already learned something that I did not know about you. I've known you for a little while, but I don't know you we're not best friends, but we could be.
Yeah.
So what did you do growing up? Like, were you always into taking photos, or what did you do for fun?
Did. I loved taking photos in high school, but I never actually took any like art courses or anything for it. I just would steal my mom's like little Nikon DSLR camera and would just go around taking pictures of like my little cousins or in the yard and stuff. So I loved doing that. But I also like really loved like theater. Yeah, I loved doing theater. I loved singing. I was a cheerleader, but I was also like very shy. So I was kind of like a little bit more reserved, but I liked, I don't know, having creative outlets, I think, and things like that. So yeah, I was a quiet little gal in high school. But yeah, I don't know. Like
You were just always into like creating art.
Creating
very
some
creative.
sort of art. Yes, I was always a very creative person. But on the like flip side of things, I loved like science. Like I'm a nerd, so I loved all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because right up until now, basically, you have also been practicing pharmacy. You've been a pharmacist, but you have built such a successful business as a photographer here in our region and now in New York City. But like everybody knows you. Like you're an icon.
Kind of crazy. That feels weird. Thanks.
I love it. So we'll get into all that. So basically, growing up, you would say a theater kid.
I was like a performer, theater, creative, shy, but also like really outgoing around like my close knit people. But yeah, always a creative person for sure. For sure.
And then you went to college after high school. Where did
Yeah.
you go to college?
I went to University of Buffalo. Yep. Shout out UB. I mean, back at the time, I feel like art was never a option really of like, oh, you can be successful doing something creative and artistic. And, I feel like it was always drilled in our heads, like, you got to go to college, you got to get your degree, you can go be a lawyer, a doctor, or like if you want to be successful, that's your option. So, which don't get me wrong, I was very into like the sciences and things. I was good at it. So I decided to go to pharmacy school.
And you stuck it out, and Lord knows that that is no joke.
Yeah.
My best friend does pharmacy in Pittsburgh, and we're all 26 now, and she just got her first job, like paying job last year. And I remember it being like a huge celebration of life because it's like, yay, Rachel can make money now.
Right. Yeah. It
Spend
is
so much time in school.
So much time in school.
In
Some
residency.
people do residency. Yeah, it's a lot of work. So you definitely have to be somewhat interested.
You have to be committed.
You have to be committed. You have to like it. Yeah, for sure. Which is actually wild because when I first went to college, I reached out to the dean's office to see if I could get an art minor with my pharmacy degree. And they were like, are you silly? Like, what do you mean? That makes no sense. Two, like, you're going to be taking like 18 plus credit hours every single semester, even summers. Like, you're not going to have time for that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you're right. Like, that's fine. So Lord knows where I would have been if I had actually done that, because maybe I wouldn't have finished pharmacy school. But you never know. But I feel like everything happens for a reason. So we're here today, and yes, I was a pharmacist at one point in my life.
And you've been doing it here in Central New York for some years.
Yeah.
And then when did you start doing photography professionally?
Yeah, so I graduated college in 2014, so I started my career then, got married in 2016, so that kind of kept my creative mind busy for a while. And then it wasn't until 2017 that I actually got my camera back out, because on my days off, I was like, I'm so bored. What am I doing with my time now that I'm not planning my own wedding and things like that? So I got my camera back out, and I was like, wow, I actually really loved this. I forgot how much I really loved this. So then I just started, doing one-off shoots with family, doing senior pictures, like, where most photographers, I feel like, start out. And then I officially decided to open my business in 2018, and I've been going ever since.
And you've done all kinds of photography, but now you're really, really zoning in on that specifically bridal experience.
Specifically bridal wedding experience. I've done families, I've done newborn, I've done branding, which I do a lot of still now, portraiture, fashion. I've been pretty much most places that you can be in photography. But I really love weddings. I love brides. I love mixing in a little bit of editorial with that world. It's definitely where I'm meant to be. So yeah, as of this year, I've put 100% of my focus just on weddings, couples, and bridal editorial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So bridal editorial, how would you describe your photography? Obviously editorial, but...
Yeah, but also very detail oriented, I would say. I love, my favorite thing at like receptions and things is just hunting out the little details of, grandma and grandpa, holding hands, or just like little moments that really help to like describe the story of the day. I feel like it's so important as a photographer to be also a storyteller and to understand what's going on at all your events. So, yeah, so detail-oriented, intentional, candid, kind of documentary style. I really enjoy, I want my couples to be present in their day. I was present in my wedding day, but I missed a lot of things. So I feel like going forward in all of my clients' experiences, I want them to be able to really fully enjoy their wedding day and me being there to capture it as it should be. obviously we set a time aside for, portraits and getting creative and all that stuff. But, very, documentary, candid, detail oriented, I would say.
Which is like, I think that's just the best, especially for wedding photography. I mean, it needs to be like I feel like it's probably the most intimate, like, client experience there is. I mean, I've worked in weddings too, and I just feel like that is so intimate, right? But I mean, photographing those little moments, and it's not just the couple, it's the entire family. So
Right. Yeah. You really get to know everyone. Plus, like, your photographer is there with you most of your day. Like, aside from your significant other, you're spending a majority of the time with your photographer slash videographer. Like, we are there capturing everything. So I think it's so important to also remember that it is a very special day for your clients, and you have to make that experience wonderful. Obviously, also capturing amazing photos, but just being that calming presence, being that fun presence, being the celebratory presence, having all of those things too, I think is super important.
hey everyone, I want to take a moment and tell you about an incredible community that's making a real difference for women in Central New York. Are you a growth-minded woman looking for a supportive and dynamic community? Look no further. The Collective by CNY Women's Network is built on core values that foster personal and professional growth, ensuring you have the support you need to succeed and live your best life. In the Collective by CNY Women's Network, we celebrate women's successes, collaborate on community initiatives, and create our own opportunities. We're committed to making Central New York a more dynamic and prosperous place to live and build our legacies. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a professional, or someone that's just looking to connect with like-minded women, this community is here for you. It's a platform where women are seen, feel connected, and can make their dreams come true. Join the Collective by CNY Women's Network today and become a part of a community that's all about empowerment, growth, and making a positive impact. To join, you can visit cnywomensnetwork.com/join for more information and use the code Cultivate10 at checkout to get 10% off your first month or year with us. That's Cultivate10 at checkout to get 10% off your first month or year with the Collective. So join the Collective by CNY Women's Network today, and your journey to success will be celebrated and supported every step of the way. Aside from your amazing work, what do you think has been what has set you apart the most from other photographers?
It's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously like the photo part is so important, but there's also the experience, which I feel you have to have a level of professionalism. You have to be calm. You have to be able to work under high pressure conditions. There have been many wedding days where I'm internally panicking because I have 5 minutes to finish doing what I'm doing or something. But I can't let them know that,
Yeah.
everything is fine on a wedding day, everything is good. But you also have to be able to be very adaptable and, think ahead. I am always 10 steps ahead if I know we're going to run late in the morning. Well, I saved myself an extra 15 minutes at that point. So we'll do it then. Kind of always having that level of planning. I'm a type A planner when it comes to things. I'm very laid back. I'm very fun, laid back. But when it comes to planning, I am down to the minutes when I'm okay, I got to be here. I got to be there. This is what we're doing. So just really, I think the whole experience is really important too. Yeah.
So walk us through the experience. Say a bride signs on with you. She's getting married in a year. What is the next step?
Yeah. So I usually send them a little something to get excited because it's super fun and it's super, I'm honored to be a part of their day or just to be chosen because there's so many of us out there that when someone chooses me, that's super meaningful to me too. So, I send a little thank you. And then I put together a big wedding guide that just goes over pretty much everything I've ever seen at wedding days of things to think about, lighting, where you're getting ready, making sure that you have a spot for hair and makeup to do their work, but also you have a spot for me to do your work. Or if you don't like where you're getting ready, maybe we don't do photos there. Just all kinds of information as far as wedding day goes from my perspective. So I send that out to my clients. And then I usually just kind of touch base with them periodically throughout the process. Obviously, like there's a lot that goes into the beginning, and then there's kind of that lull, which I feel like is very normal for most vendors. And then I encourage them to do an engagement session because I like to meet them ahead of time. Most people going into a wedding day haven't done photos before, so I like to make sure that they feel comfortable with me going into their wedding day, because then it's just like, oh, our friend is here, like we know her, we're comfortable, we know how to do this. So I always encourage, even if it's not with me, whoever your wedding photographer is, always do an engagement session if you can with them and not with another person. But also, if you have many people, like go ahead and do whatever you want to do. But it's a really good moment to actually get to know each other. I do a lot of timeline planning with them, whether they have a planner or not. I like to be involved in like any calls that I can be, making myself available if they have questions, things like that. But if they don't have a planner or someone that's coordinating the day, I'm pretty much the one that's planning their day of timeline to make sure, one, I have enough time to get creative and get everything that they want, while also making sure that they have the time to enjoy their wedding day and go to cocktail hour and do all the things that they want to do on their day, because it's important. So
Yeah. And do you usually design like the shot list typically?
yeah, I usually don't ask for specific shot lists, only because I think as a creative and as an artist, we need to be able to feel out the day and feel out the venue and kind of take our own creative approach to it. Whereas if, obviously I want to see like inspiration from my clients too, because it's very helpful in understanding what types of lighting they like. Do they like black and white? Is there a ton of black and white in their thing? Should I, focus a little bit more on certain things than others? So that's important and helpful. But I think giving your photographer creative freedom is super important. So just letting them kind of do their thing and trusting in them to do it, because that's when you're going to get the best work out of them, is, when you let them do their thing.
You did just offer a mentoring session recently, and you've done that before. What does that look like? What do you have planned for your mentoring?
So I usually do a lot of that in the off season, only because I like to make sure that my wedding clients get 100% of me during the season, and I'm just insanely busy. But yeah, so I usually do offer mentor sessions off season. In there, I am an open book. I will tell them whatever information they want to know. If they want to know how much I charge, I will tell them literally anything, how I structure packages, what is that communication like with my clients? What is the experience like with my clients? What tools do I use to keep myself organized and, not create all over the place, things like that. So I literally go over anything that they want. Also, on the other side of things, I do love planning shoots and things. So I do offer like an actual like shooting session with me too. If they want me to plan a shoot, or if there's a focus area, if they want to learn more about fashion, anything, we kind of put a shoot together and we shoot it together so they can see how I work, but also they get to work alongside with me too.
And let's talk about shoots, the process of planning a shoot. I think this is the fun stuff, probably.
It is so fun.
What was your first photo shoot that you ever planned and executed as like a young photographer?
Well, I've like planned many, like just one-off, like, I've had a couple of friends who were in a relationship that I was like, hey, we're going to go to this field and I'm just going to have you run around and, have fun and, starting there. But also the first,
you do
like
some
major,
really gorgeous styled shoots though.
Yeah. So the first one I did was, I think at the Lincoln Loft. It was like early Lincoln Loft days, and I got some models together and we planned kind of like a little bit more of a modern.
I feel like I remember that.
Yeah, I had like a bunch of brides. It was like I wanted just like a plethora of brides.
I feel like that's how I discovered you in a way.
Yeah.
Like I cannot recall how the heck I discovered you. I feel like for the longest time you've been one of my favorites. And
likewise, makeup wise.
I think it was that, because that styled shoot was like iconic. You had so many people involved.
I did. Yeah. It was very stressful though, because, doing something you've never done before, you want to make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's to make sure that, one, you're thinking about the relationships you're creating, because if you mess it up, that's not great for those networking opportunities. But yeah, I remember it being stressful. I remember it being insanely fun. And I remember it being very good for me and my business, just with the relationships I made during that shoot, the work I produced during that shoot. Because again, if you're the one styling it, you have creative control. You can do what you want. And again, that's usually when the best things happen. So I encourage everyone to get out there and just, even if it's for free, even if you have to pay people to do it. Like I paid the florist I wanted beautiful, really like modern art type florals, and I paid them for it. You can't expect anything from anyone if you want it over the top. So obviously some people are like, yeah, oh my God, no, I'll just do whatever you want me to do. But others, like, you just gotta.
Well, when you're starting out, you're building your following, you're building, So
you're proving yourself, essentially. Yeah. But it's always worth it.
What connections were made at that shoot that you, to this day, are like, thank God this person's in my life?
Yeah. Well, Katie at Lovely Bride, shout out Katie. I love her so much. She always will come through with a gown, whether it's like 12 hours. Like, she's just so flexible and willing to work with me. And I think having those connections where people trust you with, thousands of dollars worth of gowns, just things like that, is so important. But also referrals, if a bride's coming in and they don't have their photographer yet, I might be the first one on her mind, or, things like that. So any interaction that you have, you need to be thinking about, how am I being professional? Am I coming off as professional? Am I, am I creating an experience where people would want to work with me? Because that's so important for anyone that you work with.
Yeah, like you have to find a way to be likable. That's like half the job, I feel like, especially when building a business. You want people to trust you and like you, so they do business with you.
And obviously photos are great. Photos are wonderful, but everyone can figure out how to use a camera at some point, So you have to think of the whole experience.
What are your favorite kind of styled shoots to do? Like, do you have anything recently that you've done?
I did. Yeah, I did a shoot in New York City. It was more of a bridal editorial. I love fashion. Like, I just love fashion.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So anytime I can do that, but on like a fun scale, because the fashion industry is tough.
But there's so many amazing bridal designers now, and bridal is finally starting to really mesh with like editorial.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, so I did that shoot in New York, and it was so fun to just get creative, but on a different side of things. So, I do a lot of like, I've done style shoots with like real brides or real couples and things, but kind of doing something different and also just for fun, It may not have gotten me, any clients, who knows, but I think it's also important to like mix in like the stuff just for you to do and not think about what you're going to get out of it, except for just fueling your creative, filling your cup.
That's so important. That really is. And I think that's a lot of dreams die because being an artist is really hard, and it's easy to get caught up in life and figuring out how you're going to pay your bills. Of course, like who wouldn't? How do you know when you need, all right, it's time to schedule another styled shoot? I'm feeling it.
It happens generally around the same time every year. I feel like it's cyclical. You get so busy in wedding season that it's keeping you occupied, and you're interacting with clients, and you're also simultaneously booking new jobs because most people will reach out about a year ahead of time. So, you're getting all that validation and fun, and you're just crazy. And then once that starts to die down is when you're able to start thinking more. You're able to start thinking more. And then, there's always that little like, hey, like, what are you doing? I haven't done anything in a while. Like, do people remember who I am? Do I need to like,
Yeah. Do I need to pop off real quick?
Like, what do I need to do to like, get my,
get it out.
feet back. Yeah. I need to just like get that creative energy
Yeah.
out. So It's usually during the off season is when I'm trying to do things like that. Early spring also is a great time because it kind of gets me ready for the season coming up and gets me moving and thinking about, like you just got to brush the dust off and get moving again. So
Yeah. I love early spring weddings. Like they never happen here in upstate New York, but I love tulips and I love spring just in general. And I just think it's such a dreamy, like it can be such a dreamy vibe.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Although I feel like this year has been like weirdly crazy in the spring for me, which maybe it's like the weather changing a little bit because I feel like it's getting warmer earlier, but I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it at all. Yeah.
I want to rewind a little bit. Like I really want to hear about your wedding. I don't think I've ever heard anything about your wedding. Can you tell me? You're like kind of giggling right now.
I'm like giggling because I wasn't a photographer yet. So I didn't really, God, I think back, shout out to my photographer, Allie Reed. I love her so much. She's amazing. You need to check her out. I just think about like the family list I handed to her. She was probably like, good God, girl, like, do you really need all these photos? Like, and things like that. So I think it would be different today. It was very like, it was back in the DIY Pinterest age I got married in 2016. And I think Pinterest was just the thing. And I mean, it still is, but there was finding the inspiration and I didn't know much about weddings. So I missed my whole cocktail hour. By the time I had left,
you treated your wedding like a styled shoot, basically, probably, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I was still creative at that point.
Yes.
And I still loved, like, we DIY'd a lot. And it sounds like a little, like cringy to me now. Like, I wish I had just, like, hired out certain things, like flowers and stuff like that. Like, I wish I had just, like, gotten more
flowers?
of it. Yeah.
Okay. Very time consuming.
Oh, my God. So time consuming. But, again, I loved it. So it was fine at the time. But I don't know. I just think I just wish I had been more present in my own wedding day. But it was very like traditional.
You guys can do another like wedding. You can do like a vow renewal.
I know.
I feel like you would do a really swanky one. What would the vibe if you were to plan a wedding, like an intimate wedding? Now, what would you do?
It would be small. It would be very like intentional. I would have the people there who are in my life all the time. I don't think I'd have a bridal party just because I don't need to ask everyone to like get a dress and pay all the money and to do all the things or, whatever, but doing individual things that make them feel and like make them know how important they are because that's still so important for me. It would be very intimate. It would be like a garden party, like very calm, serene, but also like detail heavy, but small. I'd have probably 3 outfits.
I hear that.
Yeah. Like I love fashion. I love bridal fashion. So I would do that. I would just do it.
Ever since the whole Alex Cooper thing, like I'm like obsessed with Tab Vintage now. And they're opening up a new showroom in LA. And I'm like, low key, like, do I just drop like 7 bands on a reception dress?
I love it.
But then I'm like, no,
reel it
yourself,
in.
Alex.
Reel it in.
You're not a celebrity.
I love it.
Because they have some of the most gorgeous,
stunning,
like vintage pieces. And I love vintage fashion, especially in bridal. Like, I just feel like there's so much more meaning to it. I don't know. What would you say would I know you said like very calm, serene garden party vibes, but would you be doing something very minimalistic and neutral, or maybe would you play with color a little bit?
I think I would keep it, I don't know. I feel like I would allow myself to whatever I'm feeling at that time to just let it happen because I think that's important too. And people stress too much about, oh, well, I want this to last in 20 years. But it's like, well, that was you at the time. So make it make sense to you. Like, if that's what you love, do it. So I think I'd allow myself to kind of feel whatever I'm feeling because I'm all over the place usually with design. But if it were me right now, I'd probably be very floral heavy. I love flowers. I want all the flowers everywhere. Candles. Just want it very like moody and just like a nice little, like I want wine flowing everywhere. I just kind of like a European garden vibe, I would say. Like if I was at a chateau in France with all my besties, that's what I'd be doing.
I think that that's perfect. Like renting out a chateau in France with all, like Indie Blue, like her wedding.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Iconic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who are some of your favorite bridal designers and why?
Oh gosh.
Like dress wise.
Yeah. I love Galia Lahav. I think her stuff is stunning. There's so many. If we're going like over the top, I've always been obsessed with like if Alexander McQueen could make bridal, or maybe it exists, probably does. Obsessed with Alexander McQueen. I'm trying to think who else. I like the list that I send to all my brides of the designers that I have found is insane. Claire Pettibone, I love Claire Pettibone.
Danielle Frankel is everywhere.
Danielle Frank, yes.
I feel
Danielle
like right
Frankel,
now.
I love her.
Everyone
I love
loves.
how soft some of her designs are.
But also some of them are like kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, but like a little grotesque, but in a beautiful way. Like just very odd lines, but it's very intentional. But they're odd, but they're still flattering. And it's like, how did she do that? And I just feel like they're only like you have to be really cool to wear her dresses.
Yes.
Like you have to be really cool.
Love it. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where you come from. You just have to be like,
yeah. You gotta love it. You gotta love it and just
committed.
own it. Yep. Commit to it. Yep.
And of course, like Vivienne Westwood, we
Oh,
all
yes,
love.
we all
of
love
course,
her.
Oscar de la Renta, depending on like which era
Yeah.
we love.
Yes.
But yeah, there's so many designers now. It's insane.
Yeah. I can't even imagine planning a wedding now too, because there's so many
Confusing.
options for stuff.
It's confusing.
And there's so many different ways you can go with it. So it's like,
But people are, can we talk about how like women now are quite literally like hard launching their influencer careers off of their own weddings?
yeah.
I noticed a couple months ago, I'm just scrolling TikTok as I do, and I get served this insane wedding video with the coolest couple I've ever seen. They're both gorgeous and they just had the coolest, most edgy like wedding ever. I just could never imagine being that cool. So I click on the girl's profile and I notice, and this video was completely viral. I noticed that there's only like one other video on this page and it's like another wedding video. And I'm like, did this girl just like launch her influencer career? I think that's what happened because the editing was fire too. I mean, it was, the video was made to go viral on social media.
Yeah.
Like whoever was involved knew what they were doing.
Yeah. I love that. You do you. If you want to do it, do it. Do it.
I don't know.
Yeah. But also like you don't need to feel the pressure. I feel like a lot of brides today too, because of social media, feel that pressure of like, are my details good enough? Am I going to go viral? Is this something? But I think you need to make sure that everything is, if that's what you want, go for it. We're here for it. But don't pressure yourself into, having everything super over the top or, pushing your budget way past what it should be. You should keep all those things in mind. But, but also just do whatever you want for your wedding day.
Yeah.
That's important.
I'm sure it's easy to get caught up.
I mean, even back in 2016, it was so easy to get caught up in is it going to make beautiful pictures? Is it going to, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Just because of the Instagram era, but now it's like the TikTok era is on top of that. So it's like not just the photos, it's the videos now.
You should never feel bad about those things because the video, the photos, the content, that is all stuff you're going to have after your wedding day. But I think it's also important to think like what goes into making those photos are important to an extent, but those things you should never feel bad about. I mean, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm a little biased, but
you might be biased.
I might be a little biased, but but also like your venue matters. It's how your photos are going to appear. You have to love what you're wearing because that's what you're going to be wearing in all your photos. You have to love your bouquet. Is it what you want? Because it's going to be in most of your photos. So
yeah, I know.
It's important, but as long as you love it and you're sticking to what you want, then you do.
So be it.
So be it.
So let's talk about how you've obviously grown an amazing book of business here in Central New York, but now you're doing a lot of weddings I see in New York City. How did that start to transpire?
I mean, anytime I want to go somewhere or do something, I go there and do it first on my own dime to get exposure. But I think the first wedding I had booked there, I'm pretty sure they just found me organically on social media, but it's also because you have to use the right things if you're targeting certain areas, or if you want to be found somewhere, you should, try to do that. Once one person books you, then chances are other people are going to see you on their wedding day, or the vendors will see you. And, I have another wedding at the same venue that I shot at last year, this year, because they recommended me or someone had found me on their Instagram page, on the venue's Instagram page. So yeah, it's just about, if you want to do it, you just got to market for it, I think, a little bit, but also just, yeah.
You've done a great job with marketing though. I mean, like you've been able to get your work published. What are all the publications that you've been in?
Yeah, so
you were just featured on Loverly.
I was, yes.
That's an honor.
Yes, yeah. They chose me as a top photographer in the United States, which still to this day, I'm like, how did you find me? One, how did you find me? To see some of the other photographers on the list, I was just like these are my idols. Some of them I've known for a long time. So it's like I was a little shell-shocked, honestly, but it's definitely an honor to have that for sure. So yeah, Loverly, Forbes, where else? Wedding Chicks, Anthropology Weddings, just to name some. Yeah.
So you really want to break into like editorial bridal fashion. So I've noticed like some of the shoots that you've been doing in New York, like you're literally working with models. How does that happen? Do you pitch yourself to like the Wall Group or something like that? And like, I know that they work with artists and stylists and whatever, or to modeling agencies in general.
Yeah. So I ended up, before I kind of went 100% in weddings, I wanted to do like fashion editorial. And I went to New York, took a workshop, kind of learned the ropes of like the inner workings of like how things work. But yes, so with models, if you want to work with them, you propose yourself to a modeling agency. Most agencies will have information, on their sites and things. And to get people or to get models, you say, I want to do a test shoot is usually what they're called. And you have to provide them with as much detail. Like you have to go in with it. This is what I want to do. These are the people that I'm planning on working with. If you don't have them already, or, I try to have my full plan set before I even reach out. So they can give me a person that's going to fit the vibe, or fit if I'm looking for something specific, or, male, female, like anything. They have the idea of what you want. So you reach out to them and hope for the best. And sometimes one comes together, and sometimes they don't. You got to get used to hearing the word no sometimes too, because I hear it a lot, and that's okay. You just move on, but there will be that one person that will trust in you. And as long as you're professional and, look like you got your stuff together or have your stuff together, they will trust in you and work with you.
The worst thing that can happen is someone saying no.
Yeah, and you move on.
Yeah. How many no's do you think you've gotten? Like this year?
I can't even count. This year, a lot. And it's okay. I know that not every client is for me, and that's okay. That's totally okay. And they're going to be, obviously in the beginning I was like, oh my God, like, you don't want to work with me? Oh no, what did I do? But now it's just like, okay, like I understand whether it's a budget, whether it's, they just want someone with a little bit different of an editing style, or they, variety of reasons. You can't take it personally. There's going to be your clients out there that will love working with you and want to work with you. And those are the people you want to work with anyways. So you don't want to force anyone into it. So, yeah.
So are you really just going to focus on maybe obviously keeping your book of business here in Central New York? You have a family here, you have a home here, but still traveling to New York a lot?
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to get to New York. So I've kind of, before I was like, oh, I want to be destination. I want to be international. I want to go everywhere. Realistically, that doesn't work well with my lifestyle. I can't be traveling every weekend for weddings. It's just, I want to be home. I want to be with my family. I want to, have a little bit more of a balance with life. Not to say I'm not those things, but I only accept maybe 1 or 2 a year. Same with New York, Realistically, am I going to book every weekend in New York? Probably not. But if opportunities come, it'll happen. But yeah, so you got to have a balance. But yes, I'm mainly, I call myself New York State mostly because I'm everywhere. I'm in Buffalo. I'm up north. I'm down in the city. I've done New England area because all of that's very easy for me to get to drive. And yeah, but I have done weddings like international too. So I did one in St. Kitts, which was so fun. So it was kind of like, Island Beach wedding, and that was right before the pandemic hit. So yeah, so I've been there. I've done work like in Canada and things like that. But other than that, yeah, I would love to go to Europe. If anyone's listening.
Your style is like, you need to go to Italy and do like a, you need to do like a styled shoot in Tuscany. I feel like Como.
Yeah, I would love it.
That's a vibe.
Yeah.
That's a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Kith Studio.
Mm-hmm.
So you opened up Kith in 2022.
Yes. Yep.
And we are about to close the doors, but it's not the last you'll see of Kith.
Yeah.
But let's talk about how you kind of made that decision and like how you were able to pivot in your career, because I think a lot of people can't accept that they're going to pivot and that they're going to need to pivot sometimes. And it's not a failure. It's literally your decision to improve your life in so many other areas. Yes. So how did you decide that you were no longer going to keep the studio open?
It was sad, but I knew that, because I'm also a stay-at-home mom, kind of. I have help with family and things, but for the most part, I am, watching my son while he's home. So for me, I just found my mental health declining a little bit because I was too busy. I had too many outlets. I was still working pharmacy too at the time. So it got to be too much. I also didn't anticipate at the time the undertaking that it was going to have, because like it did well, which was part of the reason I was like, oh my God, am I even making the right decision? But it was very time consuming. I had to physically be there a lot, which I didn't anticipate.
Did you think it was like would have been a little bit more self-sufficient?
Yeah, a little bit more self-sufficient, but also not as busy. So I just found myself having to go down and clean and making sure that everything was good for, people that were renting it. And it just became a lot. And I felt my mental health declining a little bit. And I was like, I need to step back and kind of take a look at, let me really dive in to see what am I truly interested in. I've never given wedding photography 100% of my time. There's always been something else, whether, I used to work part-time pharmacy when I first started accepting my own weddings. So I was doing that 20 to 30 hours a week. I was, kind of when that died down a little bit, I went per diem. I had a baby. So my time was always split between many things, and just adding more on wasn't working for me, for my mental health, for the way I wanted to live. So I made the decision to close it.
You originally were interested in this space because you wanted your own studio.
Yes.
Correct.
And that too, when I had first opened the space was when I was really kind of diving into the editorial fashion vibes.
You needed a place to do your own shoots because there really is not space like that in Syracuse.
Yeah. There are some now, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And some are opening up close by to, so there's things accessible to everyone around, which is great. But yeah, at the time there wasn't much and I wanted to go into fashion. We're in Syracuse. There's really not a huge market for it. And again, my weddings were taking a lot of my time, but I also enjoyed it. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to do something else? Like, let me just live in the space that I'm in and just dive in head first.
For sure.
But also, like, I can still do fashion. Like, there is bridal editorial. So it's not the end of the road. It's just
But who knows
if you do see how it goes. Yeah.
If you do break into the editorial, high fashion bridal industry, like who knows where you'll be in 10 years. Like you can easily I'm sure there's a crossover somewhere into fashion. Like I could see you definitely doing like a Jacques Mou campaign. Yes. That's like right up your alley. I love his marketing. Mm-hmm. I just love what they've done. Oh my gosh, love that brand. But yeah, I love it. I'm so excited for you. And you know what? I had a very similar kind of experience over the past year. Like I feel like the past year has been just kind of like pruning the tree, and it's so worth it because your health, your mental health, your emotional health is just as important as your physical and your ability to work hard. I think sometimes you can get really caught up in being extremely competent and capable of a lot, but there's
a threshold.
You should not.
Yeah. I hustled for a really long time, and I think I got to the point now, I'm 33 years old. I got to the point where I'm like, I just want a little bit of slowness, just a little. Peace. Yeah. I just want to, take it day by day, but also to give my wedding clients like 100% of me is really nice too. So yeah. You're
going to be so much more creative for it because creativity just takes time and space. So
exactly.
I love this for you.
You have to give yourself that time.
Yes.
But you also have to give yourself that time to rest because you can't just keep going and being creative, and it takes, there is burnout, and it's very real, and a lot of people in our industry experience it, especially at the end of the season. So it's very important to try and mitigate as much as you can. Obviously, still to this day, I'm the worst at scheduling things. So if it's something I want to do and they really want to work with me, I'll make it happen if I can, So, there's that balance of controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos.
As much as you can.
Yes.
Controlled is the key word.
We're creating our boundaries. Yeah. It's happening. I love this era for you. You look amazing. Like I said, I'm going to need the link for those shoes.
I will send the link for the shoes.
The cutest shoes. You need an Amazon storefront. Sure. But yeah, no, I'm so excited for you. And you know what? I can't wait to see how much your career does transcend into this different level of bridal for you. I think you did the right thing. Thank you. Focusing, and I can't wait to see what you do, Alyssa.
Thank you. Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
Out there crushing it. So great job.
Thanks, love. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
It was so much fun.
All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you know anyone or if you are interested in being our next guest on Cultivate CNY, be sure to submit us an application. You can just click the link in the show notes. And if you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, you can go ahead and email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next Monday. Thank you.